Hello, welcome to Internet Chess Club. I'm Miguel Illescas and we are going to do the video recap of day 2 of the FIDE World Blitz Chess Championship, which took place in Warsaw in the last 2 days. Well, the man in the picture, bonjour, bonsoir, félicitations, congratulations for Mr. Bachir Lagrave, vive la France. He got the gold with this performance, which you can see on your screen. He won 13 games, 8 draws, and he just lost 3. It's a good performance, more than 2800, especially taking into account that many young players, they have very low ratings in FIDE rapid ratings. So it's a good achievement by Monsieur Bachir Lagrave. Well, you can say, okay, Miguel, come on, this is 24 games, and the tournament was scheduled only 21 rounds, and that's true. In the main event, he scored 15 out of 21, and then he tied for first, and he had to play a tiebreak. The first 2 games of the tiebreak were a draw, and he won the final game. Everything this we will see, but first let me remind you what was the situation just yesterday night when the players went to sleep after 12 games. Mr. Levon Aronian, who was our hero yesterday, was leading with fantastic score of 10 out of 12. And after him, some not so well-known players, Amin Bassem from Egypt and Parham Makhzoglov from Iran. Later, the pack with 8.5 with all top guns. And well, after 4 rounds, the situation changed quite a lot. And we still had Levon Aronian dominating the field. In fact, with a fantastic result. I mean, he was leading with 13 points out of 16 and already 1 point ahead of the pack. And maybe 2 points ahead of the top guns like Nepo, Duda, Anish Giri. And we can see very much down on the list Magnus Carlsen. He was having a very tough tournament today. He lost with Giri, probably a very painful defeat for Magnus because they have a big fight on Twitter, very spicy. But then later he lost with Grishuk, and really Magnus was in very bad shape for his level. And some other players, you can see here that Bachir Lagrave, in fact, if we have a look at the standings before, I mean, after day 1, we can see that Bachir was just in place 19 with only 8 points after 12 games. That means that he scored 7 out of 9 today, I mean, on the second day. A very good result, which brought him to the time for first. But the standings after 16 games was, well, I mean, it was almost sure that Aronian would win the tournament, or maybe Dubov. We had on the 3rd place this young player, Arjun Edigaisi from India, Grandmaster, 20 years old. And later some very strong favorites like Nepo, Duda, Giri, Artemiev, and Mr. Bachir Lagrave, who was already getting into good shape, tying to 4th place, but still very far from Aronian. So everything was ready for a victory for the Armenian. But Levon, he played quite badly. In fact, the last 5 games was a tragedy for him. He scored only 1 point out of 5. And on the round 20, penultimate round, we had a very decisive game, which I want to show you. It was the clash between Carlsen and Nepo. The very expected fight took place on round 20. Both players were not very well placed. They needed very badly to win last 2 games if they wanted to have a chance to get into the podium. So this was a decisive game for both of them. And it was a Reti opening, which We expected to go for a Catalan with the d4, c4, but Magnus surprised everybody with the move d3. I was, very much surprised to see this move. It's not in his style, but it looks like he wants to go for some kind of King's Indian attack with knight bd2 and e4. Nepo's preparation was knight c6, trying to go e5. This is a not very standard move, but it makes some sense since white played d3. Black wants to play e5. Even with tempi down, it can be quite a decent setup. But then Magnus surprised his opponent with the move d4. And then, okay, white lost tempi, d3, d4, but it's true that the knight is badly placed on c6. It would be much better after the move c5. So it's a very interesting idea, typical from Magnus, just to get out of the book. And now we play the game. I mean, after castle, knight bd2, we are going to play a normal game, and we will see who is better and why. In both players, they develop their pieces, and I must say that, it was pretty equal. Nepo managed to play c5, losing some tempo, bringing the knight to a5, but it's not so bad. And truth is that it's pretty equal, the position. Immediately we get some symmetrical pawn structure after a trade on d5. And maybe white is slightly better just because, look, this bishop is better than this bishop, and these knights are maybe slightly better than this knight, especially the knight on a5 is badly placed. So probably white is slightly better. In this position, in my opinion, black should play check. And why? Just to leave place for the bishop to e7. I think this is a very good setup. The bishop is very well on e7, protecting f6, and also helping black to control the 8 to bring the rooks. And what to say about the queen? It's magnificent here on b7. Difficult for me to understand why he didn't play queen b7 check. Instead, Nepo went bishop d6. And now white will use the bad position of this bishop. You see, the bishop is not happy here. He's doing nothing because this is rock solid. And he's hanging in some lines with the queen on d1. So that's why I'm so much surprised not to play queen check and bishop e7. This is very typical, for sure, in a rapid game, not blitz, but a bit slower time control. He would find this a very simple move. After knight f3, knight c6, white is very slightly better, but black needs to play active, and he didn't. He went for more trading of pieces, which will help white, as we will see very soon. The right way to play was e5. This is, of course, very critical. Black wants to play e4, and maybe white has knight h4. It's difficult to say. The position is around equal. Maybe it's a bit easier to play with white, but it's very playable. Here, g6, queen d7 are fine moves. But in the game, after knight b4, white gets a very comfortable slight advantage. You will see, this is the position where it's clear that this bishop is better than this one, and also this king is better than this one, for two reasons. One is that there will be no checkmate on the 8th rank. Second is that the king is more active for an eventual endgame. So these two advantages are enough for Magnus to press a lot here. He played queen d3, which is very natural, attacking on b5. Black is not in time to play rook d8 because white would take and then take on b5. So after queen d3, a6 was played, rook fc1, take, and we can see here that white is dominating the very important c file, where there are some entry points, very critical for the pawn on c6. You can say, okay, black can take the other file, but yes, but this file, you can see, it's not useful because there are no entry points. The knight controls the two. So this is the difference, and when you're checking about open files, it's important that you have some entry point, otherwise the open file is not so useful, okay? In the game, black played the natural move bishop a3. Probably, okay, it's clear that this bishop is stronger, as we said. And of course, Magnus made a very good decision here. What would you play here? Do you want to play like Magnus Carlsen? or Miguel Illescas, because this I could play myself, this next move, yeah? Okay, so let's go. The move is bishop f6. In this position, white is going to play against this bishop. This is going to be empty. It's active, but it's doing nothing. And we will see that after queen takes f6, rook d1, white is ready to enter on c6, and black is going to be pretty passive. By the way, after bishop f6, probably the best defense was g takes f6. This was maybe the last chance for black to hold the game. Because now the point is that after rook d1, rook d8, if take, queen c6, black has this important move, queen d6. And after some check, king g7, and okay, white is slightly better, but this should be a draw. After queen f6, rook d1, now we can see the difference that if black plays rook d8, then white can take, queen c6, and if queen d6, unfortunately, now there is no move, king g7, and black is losing a pawn. You still may think, okay, come on, Miguel, but after b4, what is this pawn on a2? I mean, it cannot win the game. Well, maybe the pawn can't, but the knight, yes. White is going to play a piece up in this endgame, and of course, it's completely winning. So Nepo played h6. This is another advantage to have the king on g2. You can see we don't have to lose tempi. And then white goes queen c6. The f6 is gonna fall. This is kind of forced. And then, okay, Magnus was very happy to go for this endgame where he's much better. He's training rook a7, also knight h4, knight f5. It's an easy position for a player with his technique. We can see the few moves which led to Nepo's defeat. Magnus was grabbing some more pawns. Nepo was trying to fight, but there is no real fight. White is 2 pawns up. And after a few moves with good technique, you can see here how good players control the position. You see, it looks like black is going to play here or here, and with a simple move, rook f3, you kill the game. If rook b3, knight takes b4, and this is a rook endgame, rook b4, rook c3, with a completely winning rook endgame. So after rook f3, king g7, and a few moves later, Nepo decided to resign. This was the position where he shake hands. And Carlsen was again on the fight. Not really, because we will see the situation. Let me show you the situation before the decisive last round. Let's have a look at the standings after round 20. This is the situation. Aronian, he still had a chance. He was first with the best tiebreak. Let me remind you that in a case of a tie for the first place, only the 2 first players by Buchholz, they go to the final playoff. So this was important for Aronian, who had 14. Dubov was also very well placed to fight for the first place, because look at his tiebreak, 230, very near Aronian, and much ahead of the next player, who was the Russian young player Vladislav Artemiev. So another three players were with good chances tying for first. Duda, Vachier-Lagrave, and Alireza Firoja. What to say? Carlsen was with 13.5, and his chances were very little. I mean, he was playing with black, first of all, against very powerful opponent, Vachier-Lagrave. The other pairings were Duda, Artemiev, Firoja, Aronian, and Dubov, Giri. Let me say something about Firoja and about Duda. They were playing, especially Duda, he played a good tournament. Things for Firoja were not so easy. After 12 rounds, let me show you the situation after 12 rounds. We can see that Firoja had 8 points. In fact, the same like Duda and like Vachier-Lagrave. So the 3 players who finally got into the podium, they were really doing quite bad after the first day. This shows you how difficult is this tournament with so many good players and so much stress. I would like to play once, but maybe I should do it when I was younger, you know. But one day maybe I would like to play, at least to try. I'm going to lose almost all games, but still I hope I win one and I have some fun. Okay, so after 16 rounds, Firoja and Duda, they were improving, of course, their situation. Vacher was already placed on place 11. Carlsen was doing very badly. Firoja, not yet. He was he won his last 5 games. I mean, these young players, they need a longer tournament, you know, with 3-4 days, so they can show who is better or has more stamina. Huh? And what about Duda? He was already doing quite well, 11 points, just on the pack with Nepo and some strong players. But okay, this is the situation after round 20, and we are going to see what happened in that decisive last round. Okay, let's go. Let's set up the board, and please join me to see these very interesting battles which I was analyzing for you. The first thing we will check is Vacela Graf versus Magnus Carlsen. This was, of course, a very decisive game. Magnus, he badly needed to win and maybe to be lucky with the tieback system, which for him was pretty difficult. But the game went wrong for him, but not at the beginning, because in fact he was dominating. You will see, he played very well. This Ruy Lopez with the black pieces. Of course, now Nepo and Carlsen, they are very well prepared in some lines. It's better maybe just to play something else, because after a few moves they were following game Lanka Jumabayev from Tallinn 2016, and at this point with h3 Vacher, he makes an original move, but I'm not very much impressed by his idea. He wants to play knight h2 and knight g4, but black reacted very well. Magnus, he took the initiative with d5. Maybe now the best thing to do was difficult to find on a blitz game. Sometimes we criticize the players and it's not fair, because the thing I'm going to show you, it's very difficult to find in a blitz game. Look, knight hg4, it looks like we are going to lose the very important pawn on e4, but the point is that after check we have knight d5, which is a very important move, and white maybe slightly better. Okay, these things are very difficult to find, as I said, in blitz. Vacher, he took on d5, and after knight d5 the position is pretty equal. Probably white should trade pieces. This was maybe the best thing to do, trade pieces. And okay, after queen takes d5, queen f3, it's probably pretty equal, you know. And well, this didn't happen in the game. I mean, the Frenchman went queen f3. He wanted to be clever, but well, because there is a ping, if knight takes e3, queen b7, and white is better. This bishop is very important, and the knight is badly placed here. But he probably missed the black's answer. Huh? Some tactics? You want to try some tactics? Let's go. What would you play with the black pieces? Play like Magnus Carlsen. Knight h4. Yes, that's a good move. The queen is under fire and g2 is under fire now. If the queen goes, knight takes e3 and knight takes g2. So white went queen e4, and now black played very strong knight e3. This is a very interesting idea. He's grabbing a pawn. Of course, there is some danger. The knights can be trapped as well. But in general, black is doing very okay here. He's already 2 pawns up, but he has to solve some little problems. I mean, this is under fire, this is also hanging. And Magnus here, he was thinking a lot. I mean, he had 2 minutes, and he was left with 1 minute. He was spending half of his time to make this mistake, queen takes h3. This was a bad move. We will see why. The reason is that after queen h3, white has a very powerful answer, queen d5. Attacking on f7, and this is going to be checkmate. So what is black gonna do here? To avoid this, black should first take on a4. And these are the kind of things which are so difficult in rapid, I mean in blitz. Because it's an anti-positional move. To take on a4 is very ugly. But okay, now if bishop a4, then there is not any more attack on f7. It's true that white is attacking on e8, but there is a very simple answer, rook d8. and black is perfect. In fact, it's even impossible to take on g2 because rook b8 and rook b6. It's very funny, but the white queen is trapped. Not so easy to see, of course. This is very easy with a computer, but in a blitz game it's almost impossible. After b4, rook a4, also black is very okay here with some simple moves. And it's true, white has 2 pieces for the rook, but it's already 2 pawns, and especially black king, the white king is a bit weak, and white pieces are a bit uncoordinated. You know, they are badly placed, so probably black is better. In the game, queen h3 gave white the opportunity, as I said before, to play queen d5, which he missed. It was a move probably winning, because now black needs to protect on f7, and how to do it? I mean, it's not easy. I mean, in fact, there are no moves. Because, okay, rook e6, we can try queen a8. And, well, maybe black can try to survive with knight e1. It's a strange situation, you know. But I was making some analysis here, okay, with the computer. And, okay, white is better. Even here, white is better. Rook and 2 rooks and 1 bishop. For the queen is a bit too much. But even stronger is rook g3 immediately. And then black, if he plays queen f5, now queen a8, and there are no tricks. And the only answer is c6, according to the computer. But then we have a very simple idea, just to trade queens and to go for this winning endgame with a piece up. So Battier could win at this moment. He didn't. He made a mistake. Rook g3, very natural move. And then black is again on the driver's seat with queen f5. He's pawn up, 2 pawns up. The white king is in danger. And after this natural sequence, black got a very promising position. They are playing natural moves. And black is better here. I mean, it's rook and 3 pawns, rook and 3 pawns for bishop and knight. And very important is that the white king is weak. But the next move was a bit inaccurate from Magnus. They were already very short on time. Here, I think with more time he would make this bishop c5, because the bishop gets very active attacking f2, and unfortunately for white, it's not very good to play bishop e3, because after take, the rook enters on the 7th rank, and this is very good for black. And after bishop c5, if knight g3, queen h4, knight f5, queen f6, knight g3, e4, we can play some version like the game, but with the bishop very well placed on c5. This was better for black. Magnus went e4, and the situation becomes not so clear. The game now gets very interesting. But again, Battier didn't play the more precise moves. He went here knight e2. It was probably better queen h3, trying to control f5 to get some advantage on the light squares. But after knight e2, knight g3, Magnus made a very good choice, trading this knight. And now the problem is that queen g3 is met by rook d6. And rook is coming to g6, and black is winning. So Battier had to take with the pawn, and everything looked wonderful for Magnus Carlsen. He was going to win this game and get some chances to go for the playoff. But very soon we will see that the time travel made both players to blunder, and Magnus made the bigger blunders in a few moves. We will see. This was the game. Move 36. Probably white should play rook f1, trying to make very fast, quick pressure on f5, but he didn't. He played king g2. He wanted to bring the rook to h1, which makes some sense. He wants to make some attack here, but there is no attack, and suddenly black is dominating the open file. Still, you can say, okay, but this open file is for nothing. Maybe you're right, and in fact, white could play rook h4 with the idea rook f4, and the position becomes very unclear. For example, if c5, like in the game, then rook f4 and g4, it is a bit crazy, but the bishops may get strong at any moment, and this was not so clear. But after the move played in the game, bishop f4, then black is again with a big advantage, and now he brings his pawns on the queen side, and too many lines open. Very soon the rooks can maybe join the battle through to the 7th rank. If they reach the 7th rank, white is going to be dead. What to do? Because black has is more material. I mean, it's a rook and 3 pawns against 2 bishops. Very interesting fight, but the bishops, so far, they cannot do damage to the black king. And in this moment, of course, it's very interesting psychology, because look what happened. Of course, Magnus plays c4 because he knows that take, and white cannot take because rook d2 check. You see, bishop d2, rook d2, and black is at least taking on c2 with a decisive advantage. And this is going to explain the collapse, the next blunders from Magnus Carlsen, because white played rook f1 very fast. At this point, both players had only 8 seconds on the clock, so they were playing mainly with the increment of 2 seconds per move. And at this point, rook f1, Magnus forgot that now queen c4 is a threat. He went queen f6, and I'm sure he was very unhappy. He played queen f6 to take on c3. Probably he thought this is already winning the game. But he was very unhappy when he saw that white takes on c4, and now suddenly rook d2 is not working, because that's why white played the rook to f1 to cover with rook f2. And then I'm sure Magnus was so angry, because instead of queen f6, he could simply play queen c6. And everything is protected, and now he can simply move his rooks to win the game. But he just got overconfident maybe here, or he simply missed this idea, rook f1, and then after queen c4, he's still better, but probably very angry with himself. Queen b6 was played, and the white went bishop b3, and here it was maybe the last chance for Magnus to try to win the game. He needed to find a difficult move, e3. This was not easy. In general, you don't want to get weak against the bishops, but this pawn is very important. Black is training rook d2 check, so white is forced to do something. If bishop c7, queen b7 is winning, and if queen takes d5, white is a bit unlucky that black has this move, very important, queen a5, and there is no time to play c4 because queen d2 check, and because e2, and black is winning. And if bishop f3, queen c3, this is going to be lost. Too many pawns. It's true, rook and 2 bishops are better than a queen, but too many pawns. I mean, for black, g5 is coming, and according to the computer, this is winning for black. But in the game, instead of this clever move e3, black played rook c5, which was a very serious mistake, because now queen f7, and suddenly white has an attack. I mean, he's coordinating the pieces. Now Magnus collapsed completely. He could still try, maybe make a draw after queen f6, take. It's probably drawish. But he played rook c3, and he missed the simple move bishop e5. White is training mate, and also the rook. So there is no time to take, because queen g7 mate, and the black played queen d2 check, rook d2 check, king h1. No more checks, and Magnus Carlsen was knocked out. Well, this gave Monsieur Vachier-Lagrave 15 points, and he was joined by 2 players. Now we are going to see these two decisive games on the last round. One of them very important, because Firouzja beat Aronian, and we are going to go fast first few moves. It was an Italian game. Aronian played this line, which considers to be a bit risky, this move d5. Very, very risky, but okay, this is his style. And at one point it looked more or less equal. This position considers, I was very surprised, because this position looks very okay for black, but white has some knight e4, and then sometimes g4, knight g3, and it looks like especially the knight on b6 is very badly placed. The knight on c6 is also not brilliant, because the pawn on c3 controls a lot. And it's strange, but black may have some problems here. Probably the best move here is knight d5. He played queen c8, and very soon he got into trouble. In this position, white is better. After rook e8, white found a very good move. Can you try to think like Alireza Firoja, a very strong tactical and strategical move, and not easy at all. The move is Queen b5. I like this move. He understands that taking here is not a good idea because pawn takes, and now all white pieces are very strong, much better than black pieces. Black cannot really take on h3 because bishop c7, and he's going to lose material. And then here white is very much better. In the game, Aronian went bishop g6, but he's worse, and after a few moves, he's going to lose the pair of bishops. And I'm surprised that Firoja, who had some time on the clock, he didn't find here a very simple winning move. Can you win for white? White to play and win here, very easy. He didn't find it. I'm surprised. It's a tactical move, rook e4, knight f5. We are threatening checkmate, and well, I mean, this is simply over. I don't see a defense. g6 is only move, probably. And now there are several ways to win. The most obvious is check and knight f7. White is much better here. Attack and queen h6 check is coming. Knight takes d8 is coming. This is really a nightmare. But also queen f6 is mating few moves. Because if black takes with a queen, then check and mate. Beautiful mate with two bishops. Maybe I don't know what he missed, but the point is that he didn't take on e4, but still he played a very strong move, rook d1. He was much better here. Here again, f3 was stronger because the bishop cannot really go anywhere. If bishop g6, take, and pawn up. And if some h6, then queen g3, we want to take on c7 or to take on h6. But okay, he still played not so bad, knight f5, but now black kind of fights, still fight. But here again, there is a very strong move for white. Can you find it? Yeah? No, I mean, he played well. I mean, queen b5, coming back with the queen. And this place is really very annoying for black because all pieces are tight. I mean, the knight cannot move because he has to protect the pawn. The pawn on b7 cannot move because it's a chain, you know. The pawn is protected by the knight, who is protected by the pawn, who is protected by the queen. And nobody can move, you know. At the same time, the queen is also protecting c7. And f7 is also under fire. So really, it's probably this position is simply lost. I mean, in fact, in the game, it was pretty simple because black made a bad mistake, rook e6. And bishop f5 came, and white won exchange and very simply won the game with good technique. Okay, so Aronian was out, a pity for Le Bon, who played a fantastic chess till round 16. And Alireza was again, I mean, with 15 points, tying for the first place with Vachier-Lagrave. But we still have another protagonist in this tournament, Mr. Jean-Christophe Duda, the local hero, who was again also with 14 points, and he was playing Artemiev. By the way, the other Russian player, Dubov, who had fantastic tiebreak, he could not beat Giri. It was a draw, so Dubov was out of the fight for the first place. Then this was a very good opportunity for Jan Duda, who really, he used his opportunity very well, with a bit of luck, because this is the position after move 20. Black just played bishop d5. White has to go away with the queen. Duda was with the white pieces. And after queen d1, Artemiev made a terrible mistake. What would you play here? Do you want to think? We were trying today training strategy, tactics, and now we are going to train prophylactic. Yeah? You want to find the best prophylactic move for black? Yes, of course. There is a very important rule. When your opponent crosses the middle field with a piece, just attack it. And this was the right move to play, f6. To tell the bishop, go away. Also, it's very important, black has a light square bishop, so we put pawns on black square to control better the black squares. We have full control of the light squares with the bishop on d5. So with f6, it's very good. The bishop goes away, and then we can take on a2, and black is slightly better with two bishops and very good prospects on the queen side. But instead, he forgot to play f6, and look, such a big difference. What a tragedy for Artemiev. After knight a2, take, and queen g4. And this is almost lost. How to protect against queen g7 mate? There are really no good moves. f6, bishop takes, it's over. Bishop f8, knight f6, it's also over. In the game g6 was played, but this check is deadly because now the bishop is so strong that black cannot do really anything. He went knight b4, and very soon he's going to collapse completely. Queen h6 is coming. He came here. Okay, thank you for the pawn, and here, thank you for the knight. And he gave up the fight here, leaving Duda with also 15 points. 3 players with 15 points. Let's have a look at the final standings after 21 rounds. This was the situation. Vachier-Lagrave, Duda, Firoja, 15 points. This is the final table, by the way. We can see a very bad result for Magnus Carlsen, placed 12. Some other favorites were also quite behind on the list. We can even see that players like Nepomniachtchi didn't qualify on the top 20. And some very young players doing very well, like this guy from Uzbekistan, Sindarov, Javokir, number 133 of the ranking with just a rating 2452, looks like a joke. He was also playing very high. Look at his tiebreak, very high tiebreak, very high Buchholz. He was playing with the top guns and still making a fantastic score, plus 6 in this event. This is a lot. Some other young players, Fedoseyev, Oparin, Martirosyan, Kravtsev from Ukraine, very young, and some specialists like Grishu. We also don't see here Nakamura. I'm not sure even if he was playing the tournament. But Caruana was also doing not so well in this event. And well, I mean, now the rules said that only 2 players would fight for the title, and according to the tiebreak system, those were Vachier-Lagrave and Jean-Christophe Duda. And the order is important because they played 2 games, very quiet games, to draw, and then Vachier had the privilege to play white in the decisive 3rd game because he was first by Buchholz. And this gave him a decisive advantage in the game, as we will see soon. Please join me to see the decisive game of this World Blitz Chess Championship. Let's see the fight between, in the 3rd game of the tiebreak, between Vachier-Lagrave with Jean-Christophe Duda. You ready? So let's go. This is the last game we are going to see today. This was Rui Lopez, which is okay now very popular among the elite. And white tried to surprise with this setup with d3 and a3. It should be nothing special, but he was doing quite well in both games, Vachier-Lagrave. And well, I mean, it's some moves that are difficult to play. Knight b8. If you're an amateur, you may think, okay, what is this? The knight is controlling. They told me, you know, I bought several books. They say develop your pieces, controlling the center, don't move 2 times the same piece in the opening, don't go back with the knights. I mean, what is this? Knight b8, this is crazy. Well, this is very high level chess. Black wants to regroup his pieces to bring the knight to b7 and the bishop to b7, and sometimes to have the possibility to play c6 or c5. And well, I mean, I don't quite like it in this setup. I like knight b8 when white plays c3. I don't like it so much when white plays knight c3. I was thinking, why not bishop g4? It looks very good move. Black wants to play knight d4, and if h3, we can simply take knight d4 and take on b3. How can we be worse with black? Then I understood that after bishop g4, white plays bishop e3, and even if black takes the pair of the pair of bishops, the position is not so easy. I mean, if white takes, bishop takes, for example, rook goes away, and white can play h3. If the bishop goes here, g4 is interesting, and this guy is kind of dead for a very long time. And if we take on f3, queen f3, and okay, it's easy to see that this bishop is much better than this one, so white is better. It's very top level chess. Let's forget about it. Okay, so knight c3, knight b8, bishop d2, knight bd7, a4, b4. This was played in the game. And it's quite interesting that this was played in the first game of the tiebreak as well. Both they were blitzing the moves, and at this moment, in the previous game, Vachier, he went d4, and he got some advantage, but now he improved even more with queen c2, and it's clear that he was much better prepared in this variation than Duda. I think Duda made a mistake repeating the line where he was really not so aware of the finesse, and we will see like very easy. In fact, I have to congratulate Vachier because he played a perfect game. I could not find one single little mistake from the Frenchman in this decisive game after 2 days, after so many hours. It tells you a lot about his resistance and his talent. In the game, it went bishop g4 and he was ready to play d4. Now black is not in time to take because pawn takes and the bishop has to move, and black is going to be worst with this powerful bishop on d5. So he had to take on d4, knight takes d4, and then what is the bishop doing on g4? Nothing. This was a bad mistake to play bishop g4 in my opinion. Now he had to come back, bishop d7 trying to stop knight c6, and then Vachier went knight b5. I think he knew very well what he was doing. Now the only move to survive was rook a6. It's not an easy move. He instead took quite fast. And I have the feeling that he didn't really see the danger. I mean, the danger is strategically pretty simple. This rook is going to be dead. The bishop will stand on c6, and black will have to play with a rook down. And in fact, this is what happened in the game. He went a4, trying to create some play for the rook. White went queen e3 with a very tricky threat. Can you find it? What if, for example, play if g6? What would you play with white here? Yes, the winning move b4. This was the idea of queen e3, just to pin the knight. Now if knight b3, then we have the move queen a7, or if knight d7, queen a7, and of course if pawn takes b3, en passant, rook a7. So very tricky, this move queen e3, but of course black saw the idea. Duda went queen b8, protecting his rook. Now b4 is not working anymore. But as I said before, after bishop c6, this position is probably winning already. Amazing. The rook is trapped. Black played queen b6, trying to trade queens, but rook a d1, very important move, just to be able to take on d6. If black moves the knight, then we can simply take and take to be pawn up. Okay, still with a very powerful bishop. Then black went rook b8 to try to take with the queen, but white reacted fantastic with e5, creating a lot of threats, a lot of pressure. Of course, if pawn takes, even queen takes, white is much better here. Look at this rook. I mean, this is a real tragedy for black. He's going to play a rook down. In the game, it went knight d6, and as I said, Vachier played a perfect game, no mistakes. He played brilliantly, very good technique. Black now gets, I thought this is not so easy. It's of course a pawn up, but black has a blockade on black squares, and it looks not so simple. But he went, I mean, fantastic. He played all the best moves, all the time keeping control on the position. Now he wants to push the pawn. Black needs to do something. Black is trailing rook takes c6, but then white uses the opportunity to go to the 7th rank, and the position becomes critical for black. He needs to do something. Knight d8, attacking on c6. Very good move, bishop d5. He's not in a hurry. Now b5 cannot be taken because rook d8. The knight is badly placed on d8, but what to do? King f8. We enter on the 7th. Bishop f3 is coming. Another only move. He was defending like a lion. The clocks were already showing very short time. There was not so clear, but then the move king g2, showing that black cannot really do anything. Black played king g7, bishop c4, very good move again. And after take, the domination is total. After king f6, a very important move. showing fantastic technique all the time, b6. And now if rook b6, rook d8, black needs to do something. He cannot come with the king goes nowhere, and white simply wants to play f4, king f3, g4, h4, and so on. So black played knight e6 now, but now it comes b7, and now the pawn becomes untouchable. If knight d8, white can simply play bishop d5, and look, the position, black cannot get out of this control, full control, and he went g5, trying to stop white from improving his position. But white doesn't really need to be in a hurry, and he made the simplest move, bishop e6 and rook c7. This rook endgame is completely winning. Black cannot move the rook because rook c8. He cannot bring the king because rook f7. So he decided to put the pawns out of the reach of the queen, but now the white king is ready to enter. And the plan is very simple. I mean, okay, if you bring the king, you will probably grab the pawn on b7, but you will lose all your pawns on the king side. So after a few moves, it was simply hopeless when black played this move, rook h5. And no, this was not played. Black resigned here. It's 2 pawns down and nothing to play for. So fantastic game for Vasilagraf. He was the man with better shape on the last hours, on the last minutes, and this was decisive in this World Championship. It was very exciting, a lot of good games. It's a pity that we can do only one video, because I would not get tired to analyze this fantastic. It's so difficult, you know. Sometimes we criticize mistakes, but it's true that when you play Blitz, sometimes you are simply making blunders. It's impossible to avoid. We're humans. I hope you enjoyed these games. I want to congratulate again Monsieur Vasilagraf for this fantastic victory. I will leave you with these standings of the tournament so you can have a look to all these great players. I want to congratulate all of them. And I remind you, very soon we have a very good tournament, Tata Steel, with many players from the top 10. And I hope we can also do some recaps on that event. See you soon, and stay tuned on ICC. Bye bye.